Welcome to More to Explore. This is the College of Global Futures presentation. I'm your host for this session, Bridget Bavasset. I graduated from the School of Sustainability, which is one of the schools within the College of Global Futures, and I currently teach some courses, including study abroad courses. I'm going to introduce the College of Global Futures and then our amazing alumni guest, Alexia Bednar. The College of Global Futures itself is comprised of 3 schools, and there's 5 bachelor degrees within this College of Global Futures. What's important is for you to think of what you enjoy and what you want to study to see which of these 5 degrees is the best fit for you. So within the School of Sustainability, we have a Bachelor of Science degree. You can go into researching energy, materials, and technologies, or the economics of sustainability, such as corporate sustainability, which Alexia is an expert at. The science of ecosystems. We also have a Bachelor of Arts degrees where you might be working more with people and society, or how policy and governance can help shape our future. International development around the world and how we can develop our cities to have energy, water, transportation, medical facilities, affordable housing. All of these are components of cities, and most of us will be living in a city of 10 million or more by the year 2050. So sustainable dynamics is an amazing track as well. We have a Bachelor of Science in Sustainable Food Systems. We have a growing population on this earth. We're currently at about 8.6 billion, on our way to 9.6 billion in our lifetimes. Within 30 years, we're going to hit that number. With more people, we need more food. But if you pause for just a moment and think about where you live, and if you imagine that surrounding area of your city or town, and maybe there was a farm over here, or there was an orchard, but now it's a new housing development, or it's a new business office complex. All over the world, we're pouring concrete on land to grow our food as our cities build out for urban populations. So if we have more people and less farmland, what are the challenges there? We look at innovations in ways that we can plan for a food system. We also have the School of the Future of Innovation Society, offering both a Bachelor of Science in Innovation and a Bachelor of Arts in Innovation. Very current real world studies. They look at the role of technologies such as access to the internet and how that's not equitable throughout the world. A lot of people just can't research the internet. Right now with the pandemic, we have families where several people in a house may be needing to get on the internet for schoolwork or for work, and there's problems with bandwidth or just enough technologies in a house. If there's several kids that all have different classes and there's not enough computers, all of this is a part of how innovation can help move us forward. Amazing program as well. The School for Complex Adaptive Systems is currently a graduate program, but as an undergrad, you can get a certificate of biomimicry, which is a very exciting field of study and becoming more commonplace now as a solution to a lot of challenges in the world. So why College of Global Futures? We have in the United States, 1 in 4 adults actually have a job related to what they studied in college. Within the College of Global Futures, our students are at 72%. That's almost 3 times the national average. 72% of our alumni are working in a job where they use their degree. Alexia is a beautiful example of that. She'll get to talk about how her work is applied to what she studied in school. We teach in that transdisciplinary program approach because if there's a problem where you want to say, how would an engineer fix this? And how would a businessman fix this? How would we approach this through policy and governance? With Global Futures, we're solving complex problems from around the world, and these are real world experiences. So by the time you graduate, you will have worked with another company, perhaps doing research on an internship or working on a capstone project for a business. By the time you're handed your diploma, you've already got a resume of real world experience. This includes study abroad programs. It includes service learning. So you're able to be in another country and spend days or a couple weeks working with stakeholders in that country on the challenges they face. Something that the College of Global Futures is so embedded in is working with the United Nations on those 17 Sustainable Development Goals These are goals that were set forth with a target date of 2030. So we're about 10 years away from hitting those goals. Every country is looking at poverty and education and health and gender equality and transportation and water systems. In the world, Arizona State University is number 5 in terms of helping countries move forward to meet those goals. We are also number 1 in the United States. When they looked at these rankings, there were only 3 American universities that even got to the top 100 in the world, and Arizona State University is the number 1 for the United States. So when we look at where our alumni work, this just is a handful. It's a snapshot of where students who came out of the Future of Innovation and Society program and the Sustainability program have jobs in various areas. You can see the variety here. There are high-tech jobs, there are city jobs and nonprofits, as well as you're working for retail or technology industries, a lot of food type companies like Aramark Catering. And if you notice there, kind of on the left side, midway up, UHAUL. UHAUL is currently employing 3 of the graduates from the School of Sustainability, one of which is Alexia Bednar's. So at this moment, I would like to turn the presentation over to Alexia Bednar, who's going to present a day in the life of a millennial corporate hippie. Alexia, please take it over.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. So as Bridget was saying, my name is Alexia Bednar. Currently, I am the community advocate on the corporate sustainability department for UHAUL International, which is an international company serving the US and Canada. And I thought I would start by doing a little bit about me. So as you can see in that picture, that's my family. I have a husband and a dog named Eleanor, named after Eleanor Roosevelt. I do enjoy like outdoor hobbies, so camping, hiking, kayaking, bicycling. I also love to ride motorcycles. And my husband and I, in our spare time, do make whatever we can design. So we've done furniture, gates, extravagant garden beds, you name it. And I thought I would start a little bit with my ASU journey. So I did begin to attend ASU in the fall of 2008, and then I ended up graduating in May of 2013. I was originally thinking that since I had an interest in entrepreneurialism, I had a number of small businesses even as a student in high school. I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to go into business. So I got accepted into the prestigious W.P. Carey School of Business. But about 4 weeks before classes began, I actually got a phone call, and it was ASU explaining that they had some new certificates that they were introducing to the business school. And one of those was sustainability. And that was the first time I had ever heard the term sustainability. So of course I went to my mom, my confidant. I was telling her about these new opportunities, and she stopped me and said, you have to join, you have to do the certificate of sustainability. She looked me in the eyes and said, that is the future. And, you know, being that it was my mom, I probably fought her a little bit on that idea before eventually saying, okay, I will do the certificate in sustainability. I had a bunch of business classes, you know, the typical finance, accounting, microeconomics, macroeconomics. And it wasn't, while I learned a great deal about business that way, it wasn't igniting anything in me that was passionate. I thought, if this is all business is, I don't want to be a part of it. However, in my sophomore year is when I had that first SOS course, 110, Sustainable World is what it was called then. I'm not sure if that still exists. And immediately it just opened my eyes to the world of sustainability, my first introduction into defining the word, into what it meant throughout the world, the problems that we were facing, and kind of got my mind thinking about systems, thinking about those greater issues that we were facing. I also had an interest in design. My mother is an interior designer, so I may have inherited some of that natural design instinct. And as a designer, you look at existing things in the world and you wonder, how can I improve those? So I definitely think that played upon my interest in sustainability. And I did end up minoring in design studies as well. When I finally decided that I wanted to join the School of Sustainability my sophomore year, I applied and I joined the urban dynamics field or track. So then I like to highlight some of the classes that I thought were especially influential to me. Some of them are related to the design field, but they were just super interesting and outside of every other class I took, a little more interesting to me. ALA 100 Environmental Design. This class was unique in that the very first assignment I had, they wanted me to make a chair made out of 3 materials. It had to be recycled materials, and it had to withstand, certain things. So it had to hold like a weight of 300 pounds. You had to be able to stand on it. It had to be deconstructible, had to meet all these requirements. But it was super fascinating in that it got my mind thinking outside of the box, how to reuse renewable materials, how to reuse things, and within certain constraints, which certainly sustainability has. Then I also fell in love with the introduction to urban planning. Grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, been here my whole life. I lived in the downtown Phoenix area predominantly my whole life, and I actually own a historic home in the downtown area now. Urban planning, right up my field. I do remember specifically smart growth and the development of those terms was just coming out, and that was super fascinating to me. GRA 440, Finding Purpose class. This was a philosophy/design class that just helped me be reassured that I was on the right track within sustainability and design. And it's just one of those classes that I definitely recommend taking. PRM 380, this was unique in that it helped define wilderness. So I always thought of wilderness, this constant national parks being something that was always there. That's not the case, obviously. We had to set aside the national parks, Theodore Roosevelt. We also had to define the wilderness or the wild. This used to be something that people were afraid of. And now we're having this change of heart towards wilderness. Of course, we want to preserve and conserve it. And a lot of that we talk about in sustainability. SOS 327 was Sustainable Food and Farms. What a wonderful class that was. It was with Greg Peterson. He talked about sustainable food systems in cities and how we get food equitable, secure, and access to food. This also translated into my daily life. I will talk about this a little bit later, but I do love urban farming. I have a backyard full of edible fruits and vegetables. Sustainable urbanism, again, anything that touched on sustainability and what it meant in an urban environment. So transportation, water, food, all of those things, energy, of course. And then SOS 484, the capstone, was my internship that I actually did with the city of Phoenix, and I will discuss that in more greater detail in the next slide. All right, so we have things that I recommend that you do while you're in school if you ever get presented with an opportunity. Certainly joining a club. One of the clubs that I joined early on was called Green Team. I do believe that's had a change of name since I graduated. But we did things like assisting events on campus with waste diversion, providing consultation to make sure events had sustainable footprints. We also planted trees as pictured there. I was presented with a lot of opportunities to volunteer while at ASU, whether that was an urban garden, some sort of on-campus event where they were handing things out and they needed extra people. But it's just a great way to network and make friends and future connections for when you get out in the real world and you're trying to find a job. Also, that picture in the left-hand corner, that was a large event that happened on campus. About 50,000 people participated. I had to apply for that position. It was the first semi-internship I ever had. And I became the sustainability director for that event. And we faced a lot of challenges since they had never had a sustainability director before. I had to kind of reinvent the wheel for that event. I faced a lot of scrutiny with some of my initiatives, but it was one of the most successful events they ever had. And we had a waste diversion rate of 93%. So definitely put myself outside of my comfort zone, but I learned a lot of things and I recommend everyone do that. We also have these greater known internships. These were the more corporate or established nonprofits that I helped out. So Audubon, Arizona, that was a nonprofit that was local. I helped doing marketing promotions, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with sustainability, but they're a conservation group centered around getting people connected with nature, and of course they have a love of birds, so anything to do with birding. But it was a great experience, and I got very connected with the communities of South Phoenix through that internship. It was also the first time I ever had to ask for money, as in the terms of like fundraising for one of the events that were happening. And I made an ask through Hickman Farms, the eggs that are local. So I had been connected to the owner of that business through my food and farms class, and I made an ask for a large donation through him. And in the first sentence, he said, "Stop, you have me, you have the donation." So that built up my confidence. And also, again, that was something I never had to do, was to ask for a large sum of money. So again, putting yourself outside of those comfort zones. Then I had a City of Phoenix internship, which was related to my capstone class. So we had a deadline to meet to get an internship. And there was one internship I really wanted with the City of Phoenix. I can't remember the exact title of it. I just remember it was with the City of Phoenix. And being a native, I love this city. I'm very familiar with it. When I applied, I got a second interview. And in the second interview, I was told, you're not going to be a great fit for this particular internship, but we have another one that we think would be great for you, and we're inventing it just for you. I thought that was a great honor. And that internship was with Colin Titroth, who at the time was the Sustainability Policy Advisor for Mayor Greg Stanton. That was a wonderful opportunity. Again, I got to work on land policy. So there was a lot of vacant land, and still is a lot of vacant land in the City of Phoenix. And we were wondering how we could either write policy or start an initiative that would encourage people to sell or utilize that land. And that assisted the City of Phoenix because they got property value or property taxes from that if somebody did build upon that vacant land. So it was a great experience. Colin took me everywhere with him, no matter what meeting he had. I got to go to meetings where they were writing grants for large city projects. That was very fascinating. I got to meet, the very top city officials in the city, as well as other departments, whether it be Parks and Recreation or what have you. It was a great experience, and I felt that it was a great honor that they made that internship happen for me. I also like to point out that it was unpaid. So I think actually of all the internships I had, none of them were paid. But the point of that is that it just offered such a great opportunity for personal growth, polishing my professionalism, and then helping me discover really what I was passionate about. So at this point, I had done a nonprofit service internship, one that was a public servant for the city internship. And then next you'll hear about how I worked and began in the corporate world as an intern. So I did graduate in 2013. There I was, bright-eyed, happy, excited to get started in my career. And it was a kind of depressed economy time. So I was working a minimum wage job, just having a hard time finding something that I thought was a good fit or that I thought I was experienced enough for. At the time, a lot of positions were requiring 5 to 7 years minimum in experience. And of course, I was a new graduate. I had a great support system though, and they kept pushing me to keep looking. And eventually, about 6 months after graduation, I saw the ad for the UHAUL internship. And so on the left there is a picture of the UHAUL towers, kind of infamous on Central Avenue and iconic. And also to the right of that is a picture of what the future of the UHAUL campus is going to look like. They have acquired a lot of land there, and they're building a very sophisticated campus. So they're going to have a gym and a conference center, among other things. It's going to host about 1,800 people. I started at UHAUL as an intern, and I did all sorts of projects, pretty much whatever I got assigned to, as you do as an intern. Some were related to an internal grants program that we have, where we award different states or sites money to do environmental projects, or community-oriented projects. So we did energy efficient lighting, such as LEDs. or at the back in the day, 7 years ago, it would have been T8 lighting. We also did permeable ground cover and things of that nature. A lot of updating HVAC units, heating and cooling units to be energy efficient. So started as an intern, about 1.5 years into the process. Nobody was saying, hey, your internship's gonna end. So I thought maybe I can bring this along forever, but finally my manager, Michelle Sullivan, sat me down and said, you know, you've done a great job. We'd like to have you join the team officially. Internships are a great way to get your foot in the door and get that dream job. Obviously, I enjoyed what I was doing because I was doing a good job at it. I got hired on as a project coordinator. For a couple years as a project coordinator, did hundreds of those projects I was just talking about. I'm trying to think of some of the more unique things we did. We'd had native and drought tolerant landscaping that we helped certain sites get. We had solar at a very few limited sites. We had metal roofing, which was more durable and lasted a long time, and therefore did not need to be replaced as often, saving resources. And then after that 1.5 years, or a couple of year time span of being a project coordinator, I was actually offered a new position based on my evolving work tasks, and that was community advocate, my current title. So I'm grateful to be working for a company that keeps seeing the future and expands these programs and the positions to meet. I'm just going to touch briefly on some of the other initiatives that I currently work on. We have in the lower left-hand corner a picture of our farmers market that happens a few times a year, but it's where we invite the public and all UHAUL team members and families on campus to get access to fresh, local, healthy foods. And that helps with our health and wellness of our team members, but also supports that local economy. So I've been able to handpick local vendors for that market, and 10% of every dollar we spend at that market benefits a rotating partner nonprofit, which is amazing. So that's a new event, and that's something that I got to do as a community advocate. Also, Bike to Work Day, there's happy folks in the right-hand corner. That's where we join the city of Phoenix, usually in the spring, for a group bicycle ride. And we learn all about the health and culture of bicycle commuting. So it's a great time, and I'm happy to connect with our local community. We also have an initiative that's featured in the right bottom corner, and that is Flow Water. That's a plastic water bottle reduction program. So all of these unique things that I get to expand upon as my current position allows. All right, adaptive reuse. This is a large portion also of what I do now. We have 70% of UHAUL properties are existing buildings. And when we purchase one of those existing buildings, rather than demolishing it, creating a bunch of waste, and then using quite a lot of virgin materials and transportation of virgin materials to build a new site, we just use that existing building. So this cuts down on a lot of waste and a lot of emissions, like I said, that as a result of transportation of materials or pouring concrete. That's a great example that was pictured of an old theater that got turned into a UHAUL site. And then we have the environmental impact of the building. This is fun. I don't actually come up with those numbers that are featured there. Our chief sustainability scientist, Alan, does. But I think it's a great visual of just the impact of this program. So if you can imagine, we have 1,000 sites, definitely more than that, but around 1,000, and 70% of those would be adaptive reuse. So the impact is huge. So go Team UHAUL. Okay, and these are just, I like to talk about some of the personal projects that I have. Sustainability doesn't stop just when I check out for the day. It does trickle into my personal life. So that sustainable food and farms class always stuck with me, and I grow a lot of the summer beds in the winter full of lettuces, artichokes, herbs, onions, that sort of thing. And then also I have fruit trees. So those are my peaches I grew there. That was actually excess, and I took some to the market to sell at local farmers market. But I have 23 fruiting trees in my backyard, or edible trees, I should say. Everything from papayas to apples, peaches, mulberry, fig, lime, mesquite, the list goes on and on. Also, Pictured there is a local home tour. This is a historic home tour that happens in a neighborhood adjacent to mine. And this has been happening for, 20 plus years, this historic home tour. But I approached them one day and said, hey, have you ever thought about ensuring this event has a sustainable footprint? And they're like, no, we don't have that expertise. So they made a position for me to be a sustainability director of that event. And we had, I think it was like a 60% waste diversion that first year, but we had bicycle racks set up in front of every house that attendants would go to. And the vendors, we made sure, did not bring materials like styrofoam and things of that nature. So it does not stop after work. I continue to look for opportunities to inject sustainability into our city. And actually in the spring, I'm going to be hosting with another partner at ASU, Daniel Fouché of the design school. We're going to be doing a mural project along the Grand Canal in Phoenix. And the focus of the murals will have a sustainability theme. And the point of that is to connect communities and promote wayfinding. And of course, the canal is a space for recreation and connectivity, alternative transportation routes. So a lot of bicycling or things, or jogging or something like that. And this is my contact information. Does anybody have any questions?
And please feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question, or you can just put it into the chat box.
Okay, well, that's my contact information. If at any point you're watching this and you have questions for me about UHAUL or being an alumna of ASU and the School of Sustainability, please feel free to reach out.
And thank you, Alexia. And this is our contact information as well as Alexia's. I'm Bridget, and my colleague Colin Tatro. We would be happy to answer any questions you might have. It's very amazing to see how people like Alexia, who came through the program and through internships, you were offered, jobs to move forward and make meaningful impact in your life, which is just so absolutely fantastic. Definitely connect with us. We'd be happy to answer. So Alexia, thank you so much for spending time with us. And we want to welcome everyone for participating. Have a beautiful day. And of course, have a great week.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.